Most PhD studies start with identifying a research gap, and this process can take up to 1 year. It's a very tedious journey. It requires lots of work and effort. And in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can find a research gap in 3 steps and how you can use 2024's AI tools to make this process a bit easier for you. Hi, I'm Aynur. If you don't know me, I'm a PhD student at Imperial College London, and I do videos to help you on your academic journey. And today's video is going to be on how to identify a research gap in 3 steps. Let's get started right away. Let's start with the first step. Whenever you look out for a research gap, the first thing that you need to do is you need to identify core papers. 3 to 4 core papers. What are core papers? Core papers are papers that are very well cited and known in that research field, and that cover like really the basics and give you like a solid foundation in that research area. They have a lot of impact in your research area. They are well-known, well-established articles. So once you find these 3 to 4 core papers, you can read them, familiarize yourself with your research area, and really like gain the knowledge that you need in order to find a research gap. Now, obviously the question arises, okay, how can you then find a core research paper, right? So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to note down the keywords that match to your research field. Let's a blunt example. You're interested in how polar bears survive the cold weather, how their fur is made up so that they don't freeze to death in this cold that they live in, right? So when this is your research field, some keywords would be like polar bears, cold weather, maybe also like insulation, right? And then you're gonna type in these keywords into your search tool of your choice. This could be like Google Scholar, this could be pons.org, right? Type it in, and then you're gonna get like a huge list of articles, obviously. So then what you're gonna do is you're gonna check the title of the article and the abstract against the keywords that you've defined. And the articles that have like the highest match rate are very likely very well fitted to your research field and might potentially be core papers. Now, as you continue with your research, as you continue to search for articles, you're going to adjust your keywords, because let's say you typed in polar bear and insulation and cold weather, and then you're going to see how articles use different or more scientific terms to define cold weather, to define polar bears, right? So in that sense, you're always going to adjust your keyword list and make it more and more perfect over time. But that's the first step. And then you're going to download these couple of articles that have like the highest match rate and that are also well cited. You can also look at the citation score. And this is your first step. Now, don't forget, while you read all these papers, our main aim here is to find a research gap, right? We do not only want to learn new stuff about a research field, we really want to find a gap by the end of it. So while you read papers, always have an eye open for the author's suggestions on future research. This is super helpful because this does not take place in every single article that you read, but some articles have that. They have like at the bottom, after the discussion and the results, they have like this thing, suggestions for future research, and also take notes of them. Note them down, all these suggestions, when you find some on a spreadsheet, on Excel, on Notes, on whatever you use as a note-taking tool, on Notion, and yeah, do that. This is super useful. All right, so this was step number 1, finding 3 to 4 core papers. Once you found these core papers, congratulations, you actually did a lot of work already, but now we have to go deeper and deeper into the research field, and in order to like find a research gap, we need to dig deep, right? Because a lot of the things have been done already. So this leads us to step number 2, find more papers that are connected to the core papers. And this is like something in 2024 where we do have some AI tools that might help you along with it. And some of them are actually open source, entirely free. And one of them is ResearchRabbit, because ResearchRabbit is like a literature mapping tool. So you feed ResearchRabbit with the core papers. You say these 4 papers are my core papers, and then you ask ResearchRabbit to create a mind map to show you all the papers that are related to your core papers. All right. So by the end, you'll have like a great overview on the landscape of articles that are published in your research area, and you can now easily click on the different dots in your mind map, read through the abstracts, read through the title, and then you can just download the papers that fit into your research area. area. So by the end of step number 2, you should not only have read your core papers, but you should also have read and taken notes of lots and lots of different other papers as well. And this is the most tedious step of finding a research gap, because reading articles takes a lot of time. And this is also why finding a research gap can take up to 1 year time, because you really have to read a lot and you have to like understand everything, and it's a complex topic, right? So step number 2 is really going through all the articles that are there that are related to your topic, reading through them and taking notes. Once you've done that, then the rest is much more easier, because step number 3 is to really go back to your notes, read through them, and by that point you should be able to kind of sense where a research gap might lie, because you've read so much and you've gathered so much knowledge that by now every time you read an article you read it with the intention that you're looking for a research gap. So you should have developed a couple of ideas where a research gap might lie, right? So note down these ideas now, like look again at your notes, at your spreadsheet, at like everything you've done work-wise so far, and really look, okay, where can I now find these research gaps? And then once you've like found like 1 or 2 potential research gaps, you kind of have to do the whole cycle again, where you then look specifically for articles in that research gap area, just to make sure that your research gap is really your research gap, or whether you have to refine it a bit more to then eventually really find a research gap, okay? And you're just gonna keep repeating this process until you find something that you're happy with in terms of like your research question then in the end. So yeah, these are the 3 steps to find a research gap. I'm gonna summarize them. First, you're gonna find your core papers. Then you're going to feed your core papers into a literature mapping tool, and then you're going to read through many more papers in that research area, and you're always going to take notes with the intention that you're looking for a research gap here. And once you've gathered all that new knowledge in that area, you should be able in the 3rd step to really find a research gap. And then with the research gap that you've found, the potential one, you're again going to go back to your Google Scholar search and you're going to look for keywords that match that research gap and really double check whether your research gap is really a research gap. And this process is a disgusting process. I think most of us scholars, we don't like doing that because you read a lot and it's complicated, and then it feels like everyone has done everything already yet, and it seems like you will never find a research gap. Sometimes you're lucky and you find it quite easily. Oftentimes it's tedious, but just stick with it. Like it's normal that it takes a lot of time, and no one expects you to find a research gap within a month. It really can take up to 1 year. That's normal. You're not the only one who takes a year to find a research gap, right? So just stick with it, have a good working routine, make sure to take your notes properly because you're gonna need them and you're gonna forget what you've done a couple months ago. So your notes are very important, and then you'll eventually get there and you'll find your research gap, and then you can start doing your own research and work on answering or filling in the research gap for future references. Yeah. All right. Before I end this video, there are 2 more tools that I want to just mention briefly so that you have a bit more help in the field of doing literature review in general. So one is pons.org. I've already told you that a bit earlier in the video. It's similar to Google Scholar. You can look at patents, but also lots of articles, millions of articles and journals on their page. But the cool thing is it has more filter functions than Google Scholar has. So if your research is something where you just need a bit more filter, for example, you could filter like which university has published what, which journal has published what. You can filter almost anything, and these metrics can be super useful. So if you need more filters, then pons.org is better than Google Scholar, right? And then also, if you just want to skim through a paper and understand really quickly what the paper is about without like having to read the whole thing, or whether to, if you just want to briefly scan the paper, whether you need it or not, you know, whether you can dispose it or stick with it and spend more time on it. SciSpace is a great tool as well. They do have an extensive free version. By the way, this is not sponsored or anything. This is just my personal experience, and I really recommend you to use both of them. And with SciSpace, you can also just scan through a paper and get a nice overview with the key points of that paper. And this will help you if you have to skim through lots of different literature. And do make sure to make use of pons.org, SciSpace and Research Rabbit as a literature mapping tool. All right, that being said, this is it. This is the end of the video. Then again, the task is in your hands. You have to get through and find your research gap. Good luck with it. I believe in you. You'll get there. It's just you have to push through it. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's going to take time to acquire that knowledge and find that research gap, but I'm sure you'll be able to do that and master that. And I wish you lots of luck on your way. If you haven't done so already, I do have an Instagram account, which is much bigger actually than my YouTube channel is. I post almost daily very useful academic tips on my Instagram channel. So if you haven't done so already, then follow me on Instagram to not miss out on these. And other than that, make sure to like this video, comment something, subscribe here. It's a very new channel, so every single comment, like, and subscription from you means a lot for the channel in general. So I really highly appreciate it, and have a great day wherever you are. Bye bye.